I thought my little brother was stealing our food. Turns out a man was living in our attic. My father says this house has good bones. I think they're broken. You know how old houses talk? The groans of settling timber, the sigh of pipes in the walls. For most of my life, it was just background noise. Comforting even. The house breathing around me, my 9-year-old brother Kiko asleep in the next room, our dog Buster snoring at the foot of my bed. With my dad working the night shift at a bottling plant, that breathing was the only thing that kept the silence from getting too loud. Then, about a year ago, the house started saying new things. It started small, so small you'd think you were losing your mind. I'd come home from school and the thermostat would be turned down to 65. I'd crank it back up, yelling for Kiko to stop messing with it, and he'd just stare at me with those big, honest eyes and say he didn't touch it. I'd find the TV remote on the kitchen counter. When I knew, I left it on the arm of the couch. Dad would just shrug when he got home. You're a 16-year-old with a head full of homework, Zephyr. You forget things. He made it sound so simple. But the feeling wasn't simple. It was the constant, nagging sense of being wrong. Of your own memory turning against you. Then it got personal. I went to brush my teeth one morning and my toothbrush was damp. Not just a little, but wet, like it had just been used. I lived with my dad and my little brother. Neither of them would ever use my toothbrush. I threw it out, my stomach twisting. I told myself maybe I hadn't dried it properly. A lie. I knew it was a lie the moment I thought it. Buster felt it too. Our old, lazy mutt, who usually only moved for food or belly rubs, started acting strange. He'd sit in the middle of my room, his head cocked, and stare at the ceiling. Not just stare, but whine. A low, pathetic sound that scraped at the inside of my skull. Sometimes he'd stand on his hind legs, his paws scratching at the drywall right above my bed. It's squirrels in the attic, Zeph, Dad would say, not looking up from his paper. I'll put some traps up there this weekend. He never did. The breaking point was the candy. After Halloween, Kiko had this plastic pumpkin full of his haul. He guarded that thing like a dragon. He'd count it every night. Then, one morning, he came into the kitchen crying. Proper, gut-wrenching sobs. Someone took my Kit Kats, he wailed. 2 of them were gone. Just 2. Dad got angry. He thought Kiko had eaten them and was lying to get more. They had a huge fight. Kiko was grounded. He spent the rest of the day in his room, miserable. That night, I watched him from his doorway. He had his remaining candy spread out on his floor, counting it again, his lips moving silently. He looked so small, and I knew, with a certainty that made me feel cold all over, that he wasn't lying. Someone else took his candy. That's when the fear really started. It wasn't about squirrels anymore. A few nights later, I was trying to finish a history paper. It was late, almost 1 in the morning. The only sounds were my fingers on the keyboard and the hum of the old desktop computer. Then I saw it. The tiny green light next to my built-in webcam. It blinked. Once. Twice. Then it was gone. My hands froze over the keyboard. My heart was a fist, hammering against my ribs. Kiko was asleep. Dad was at work. I was alone. I forced my hands to move. I opened the task manager, my eyes scanning the list of running processes for anything I didn't recognize. Nothing. Everything looked normal. But it wasn't normal. That light doesn't just blink. My hands were shaking, but I opened the network utility. A list of connections popped up. Most of it was meaningless to me, but one line stood out. A constant low-level data stream being uploaded from my computer to a local IP address. An internal network. Someone was pulling data from my machine. Right now. My blood ran cold. I copied the IP address and pasted it into my web browser. A black screen appeared with a single white box in the center. Password. My mind raced. I tried the obvious stuff. Admin. Password. 12345. Nothing. I tried Kiko's name, my dad's name, my name. Nothing. My fingers were slick with sweat. I thought about the toothbrush, the thermostat, the candy. I thought about the little things, the violations. What else did this person know? On a sick, desperate whim, I typed in my birthday, month, day, year. Access granted, the screen flickered, and my world fell apart. It was a grid. 6 little windows of grainy black and white video. The first one was the kitchen. The angle was high, from the corner near the ceiling. I could see the table where we ate dinner, the counter where I'd found the remote. Another window showed the living room. Another showed Kiko's room, my brother a small lump under his dinosaur comforter. Then I saw it. The fourth window. It was my room. It was a live feed of my room from above and behind me. I could see the top of my own head, my shoulders hunched over the desk, the glow of the monitor illuminating my face. I felt like I was going to be sick. I slapped a hand over my mouth, my breath coming in hot, ragged bursts. I wanted to close it. I wanted to smash my computer and run out of the house and never come back. But I couldn't. I had to know. There were tabs at the top. Live feed, archives. I clicked on archives. It was a calendar, stretching back for months. Every day had a folder full of video clips. They were meticulously labeled: Kiko sleeping, Dad shaving, Buster eating. I clicked on a folder from last week. A video file was titled Anja Couch Sleepover. My friend Anja. She'd stayed over to work on a project. The video showed her, curled up on our sofa, her face peaceful in the dim light, washed all night. I felt a fresh wave of vomit rise in my throat. I clicked on a file from that afternoon, when Kiko and I were at school and Dad was out. The feed was from the living room camera. For a few minutes, nothing happened. Then, the square panel in the ceiling that led to the attic pushed open. A pair of dirty sneakers dangled down. Then jeans. A man I had never seen in my life dropped silently to our floor. He was thin, wiry, his face pale and smudged with dirt. He was wearing one of my dad's old faded sweatshirts that I thought we'd lost. I watched him walk to our fridge. I watched him open it and drink milk straight from the carton. He grabbed a handful of leftover chicken. He walked to the couch, sat in the exact spot my dad always sits, and turned on the TV with our remote. He just sat there, eating our food, watching our shows, in our home. After an hour, he stood up, wiped his mouth on his sleeve, and walked back to the hallway. He jumped, caught the edge of the opening, and pulled himself back up into the attic, disappearing into the darkness. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't scream. I could only stare at the screen as the truth crashed down on me. The noises, the missing food, the wet toothbrush. He wasn't a ghost. He was real. He was real. He was upstairs. Right now. Living above my head. My phone felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. I couldn't call. He would hear me. My fingers fumbled as I sent a text to my dad. Come home now. Something is wrong. What is it? Zeph, I'm at work. Please, just come home. Call the police. Tell them to be quiet. Someone is in the house. IN. The attic. I locked my bedroom door. I wedged my desk chair under the knob. I grabbed the heaviest thing I owned, a massive calculus textbook, and stood with my back against the wall, listening. Every creak and groan of the house was him. Was that a footstep? Was the ceiling right above me sagging? My own breathing was a roar in my ears. The minutes felt like hours, and then I heard it. A siren, faint at first, then growing louder, closer, until it was screaming right outside. Red and blue lights flashed through my window, painting the walls in strobing colors. I heard my dad's truck skid into the driveway, heard him shouting my name. I unlocked the door and ran down the stairs, right into my dad's arms. The police were already in the house, 2 of them, guns drawn. He's up there, I sobbed, pointing a shaking finger at the ceiling. He's in the attic. My dad's face was white. He stared at the attic door like he was seeing a monster. Get out of my house, you son of a bitch, he bellowed at the ceiling. Silence. One of the officers got a stepladder from the garage. He climbed up, gun raised, his partner covering him from below. He pushed the panel open. Darkness. He shined his flashlight inside. This is the police. Come out with your hands up. More silence. Just the hum of the refrigerator. The officer started to climb in, and that's when we heard it. A frantic scrambling sound. A thud. A muffled curse. He's in here, the cop yelled. He's heading for the eaves. There was a crash. Shouting. The sounds of a struggle, terrifying and violent, coming from right above our heads. Something heavy slammed against the ceiling and a crack spiderwebbed across the plaster. I flinched back, pressing myself against my dad. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they brought him down. He wasn't a monster, he was just a man, scrawny and filthy, with terrified, wild eyes that darted around the room but never looked at us. They put him in cuffs and let him out. His nest was up there. A greasy sleeping bag, empty food wrappers, Kiko's missing Kit Kat foils, bottles filled with piss. He had spliced into the attic's junction box to power a small router and his laptop. He had been living off our scraps, our warmth, our lives. The police called him a phrogging case. Said it was rare, but it happens. People who live undetected in other people's homes. For how long? They didn't know. Maybe months. We moved a few weeks later. We couldn't stay. The bones of that house were broken for good. But it doesn't matter. It's been a year, and sometimes, late at night when I'm alone in my new room, I'll see it. A tiny flicker of green light next to the camera on my laptop. I know it's nothing. I know it's just the machine booting up, just a meaningless glitch. But I always cover it with tape. Because I can't shake the feeling that even with new walls around me, somewhere on a network I can't access, there's a little window open, and someone is still watching.